Shalom. This week we're reading Parashat Naso in the book of Bamidbar, beginning in the book of Numbers, chapter 4, verse 21. There are many themes in this week's Torah portion, and one of them is the concept of peace. And we read in Parashat Naso the words of the priestly blessing that are uttered by Aaron and his descendants, with which they bless Kohanim, bless the children of Israel. And we read there the words, "May the Lord shine his countenance upon you and grant you peace." And this is the sealing of the priestly blessing. And the Midrash states, rather enigmatically, "Great is peace, for with it we seal our daily prayers and the priestly blessing." And we find in the chapters of the Fathers a teaching by the great sage Hillel, who says, "You should be of the students of Aaron. You should love peace and pursue it, love all creatures and bring them close to Torah." Aaron, of course, was the great peacemaker. Our sages tell us that Aaron had this attribute that he couldn't bear for people to have any kind of controversy, or for them to be in conflict, whether it was friends or neighbors or man and wife, and he always went about trying to bring back the peace between people. People had an argument or a quarrel, he would go to one and he would say, he really feels bad about that, and he asks you to forgive him, and he would go to the other and say the same thing, and maybe neither of them really said it, but in this way he would find ways of bringing about a state of peace between people. And so Hillel is telling us we should emulate his attribute of seeking to bring about peace. Later on in the book of Numbers, we read about the great Pinchas, chapter 22. In verse 12, we read that God rewarded Pinchas for his act of zeal in avenging, as it were, and restoring the honor of God. God tells him, "Behold, I give him my covenant of peace." And of course, the Torah tells us in Proverbs chapter 3, its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. The sages tell us, great is peace, for the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, itself is peace. And there are many more verses in the Torah that testify, that attest to the great quality of peace. And another Midrash states, "Great is peace, for it is equal to the entire act of creation." As the verse in Isaiah states, Isaiah chapter 45, He makes peace and creates everything. So peace in that verse is equated with everything. Also, in this week's Torah portion, we have the concept of the suspected adulteress, and as part of the process of determining exactly the status of that situation, the portion of the Torah is written on a piece of parchment, and the holy name of Hashem is written there, and is allowed to dissolve in water, and then the woman is administered that drink. And the sages tell us that peace is so important that we find that the Holy One himself allows his own honor, as it were, to be foregone, and allows his name to be erased for the sake of bringing about peace between man and wife. We read about this in the 5th chapter of Parashat Naso. From all of this, we begin to understand that peace is some sort of very high level, this concept of shalom, not just the absence of controversy or dissension, but rather, as our sages teach us, based on the verse, Hashem himself, God, makes peace on high. But there is no dissension in heaven, so what could that mean? He makes peace on high. Rather, we see that peace is a positive force that actually is applicable in this world as well as in the heavenly spheres. The entire Torah really is peace, and all of creation is conducted through this quality of peace. When we think about it, we understand a little bit deeper. We look at creation, we look at our world, and we realize that all of creation really is full of opposing forces. There are the 4 elements. There is cold and heat and night and day and summer and winter. And within the structure of creation, there are really opposing forces that are constantly at work, and they contradict each other. And if things would be left to themselves, if nature would run its course, there would really be no peace or harmony. But this attribute of shalom, which God infuses in creation, is actually above the natural order of things, and it's that which binds together, rectifies, unifies all of the opposing forces of nature together. And God knows the secret of creation and how all of these opposing forces actually complement each other. And in the absence of peace, all of these contradictions would become apparent and would cause destruction. And this is why peace is so great, as our sages tell us, it is equal to all creation, because it actually upholds creation, and through peace all of creation is upheld. So peace is not just an individual attribute, but rather it's a comprehensive quality that God has infused into the world and upon which creation is dependent. And thus, of course, we have a deeper understanding of the statement of our sages that great is peace, for God's name is peace, as it were. His name can even be erased to bring about peace, for this is the power that stabilizes and strengthens the world. But as with everything else that we learn about, we understand that there is a fundamental principle, an underlying concept in the Torah. This fundamental principle is that everything is up to us. And we can't stress this enough, this idea that really guides everything that we do, everything in our relationship with God and in our position in the world is reciprocal. And everything that we get really down here is a reflection of what we do. And one of the places where we see this really emphasized is in Psalms 121, verse 5, where we see that the verse tells us that God will protect you, and God is your shadow by your right hand. And as the holy Baal Shem Tov taught, a person has a shadow, and when you move, the shadow moves with you. And so really Hashem is telling us that as we act, as we conduct ourselves, so will He also conduct Himself with us. And so really what our sages are telling us is that by our loving peace and pursuing it, by our efforts to be from amongst the students of Aaron, we can help to bring about the furtherance of peace on a cosmic level as well.